2020. This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com, and this is a combined daily news update / Wrestling Observer review, and there is tons of news this week. Huge amount of news. I also did an interview with Terry Runnels today, interview with Tank Abbott yesterday, Jacques Rougeau the day before. The Tank Abbott and Rougeau ones are already up at patreon.com / the Hannibal TV. The Terry Runnels one should be up soon. She did not want to talk about New Jack, by the way. She, I guess, had a bad experience with him. And I also wanted to say before I get this started, in the past 30 days, the Hannibal TV has had more viewers than the NWA, MLW, Ring of Honor, and New Japan Pro Wrestling's English YouTube channel. So greetings to all you guys checking in. There's a lot of news, so I'll get into it. They started off by going over the first quarter WWE phone call over in the Wrestling Observer. The company took in $291,009,000 in revenue, huge revenue, and had $24,145,000 in profit. And the big reason for those profits were the TV revenue from Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, the new deals there. The live events lost $3.2 million compared to losing only $200,000 in the same quarter last year. WWE is not doing a video game this year. That was big news coming out of the call. As far as consumer products, WWE's revenue was $16,922,000. Previously, it had been over $20 million. So consumer product revenue dropped. I think actually all areas dropped other than TV revenue. The other thing is that WWE said costs of producing their TV show right now are lower than traveling around doing live events because they have lower production costs. Obviously, they can leave the setup they have at the Performance Center. They don't have to hire people to set up and take down. They do it all at the same location. A lot of their talent already live in Florida. They're not traveling all around the United States, Canada, and other places doing TV taping. So there is a cost savings there, although wrestling is sure as hell really boring to watch in front of no crowd. Also, live ratings have gone down, obviously. We've seen that the live TV ratings have gone down, but DVR recording of the WWE TV shows has dropped even more than the TV ratings. So that's not a good sign. They had scheduled 59 events for the first quarter. 33 were supposed to be regular house shows, but many of those events were canceled due to the coronavirus. The NXT brand did 47 house shows in the first quarter. They averaged 870 paid, and they averaged a gate of $32,589 per event. So NXT actually did more events than WWE did. I think WWE only did something like 42 events compared to 47 from NXT. Vince McMahon also said on this quarter call that I did listen to, by the way, that the new environment is going to rely more on content than house shows. So in other words, video than actual arena gates and money coming in from live attendance. Money is going to be now coming in more from TV and digital platforms. Vince McMahon said he has no idea, basically, when they're going to be allowed to start having shows in front of live audiences again. They also said they're going to be doing more mini movie type matches. Probably a good idea as long as they don't get too ridiculous with wrestlers evaporating and stuff and teleportation. WWE, if for some reason things change in Florida and they're not allowed to do tapings in Florida anymore, which is unlikely, they do have some backup states that will allow them to tape. Steve Curtis, by the way, just tipped me $10 and said my Friday night cover charge. So thank you very much, Steve Curtis, for that. And when I get through the news, I'll answer some other questions on here, but there's a ton of news. The WWE Network subscribers total, including the free subscriptions right now, are at 1.4 million. They wouldn't say how many of those were free and how many were paid. Vince McMahon, also something interesting that he said on here that was a lie, said that prior to this situation, Madison Square Garden for WWE would sell out instantly. Now, we all know that just last year with Kofi Kingston as champion, they had their lowest drawing TV taping ever at Madison Square Garden. I think it was like 7,000 fans. So for Vince McMahon to claim on this call that TV taping or that any event at Madison Square Garden would sell out instantly before the coronavirus is funny. Malafay says, would I go on Conan's podcast? And Malafay tipped me $2. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm not opposed to going on any podcast. Nathan Justice tipped me $5. Thank you. I really appreciate all of that. McMahon also noted on that call that there's uncertainty whether there's going to be another Saudi Arabia show this year. Regarding the heavy unemployment that's going on right now all over the world, but a lot of it in US and Canada, how that's going to affect business in the future. Vince McMahon doesn't believe that people having less money is going to affect business much when they get back to live shows. He said historically their business hasn't been that sensitive to economic downturns. But the fact is a lot of people don't have jobs right now, and they're going to go months without earning the same amount that they were. Hopefully most of them can get EI or some kind of a government benefit. But here in Canada anyways, EI and the government benefit is not going to equal what people made prior to this, especially if you had have a family to support. In other WWE news outside of the earnings report, Leo Rush publicly stated before he was fired as part of the recent firings that he was not going to work for WWE while this pandemic was going on, and he was fired. So take that for what it's worth. While UFC is claiming when they get back to doing shows, they're going to test every fighter for the coronavirus, pro wrestling right now is only checking wrestlers for fever and symptoms of cold and flu. I know the coronavirus test can't be that difficult because I listened to Joe Rogan's podcast and he has every guest tested right now by a doctor before they do his show. So it can't be that difficult to have people tested before they perform. But apparently WWE is only checking for fevers and cold and flu symptoms. As I already reported, WWE had more cuts this past week. Cassius Ohno, otherwise known as, what the hell was his name? Chris Spartan is his real name. Chris Hero, I think, was his previous wrestling name. He was released, the biggest name out of the wrestlers released. I know for a long time they wanted him to lose weight, and I don't think he ever lost weight. So that might have something to do with it. He was working for the WWE's NXT UK brand, which basically just does 2 TV tapings every few months, from what I understand, or every month. They stop doing house shows, and they're not a profitable brand. Gallows and Anderson, according to Dave Meltzer, says they were likely cut because the company paid so much for their contracts. They were supposedly making $750 a year, and WWE probably saw them as being overpaid. So that's probably why they were cut. Meltzer believes and expects that they're either going to go to New Japan or AEW, or both, if they can pull that kind of a deal. Mathis Basfetti, sorry if I mispronounce your name, tipped me $5. His great work and research. Thank you. John Means says, appreciate what you do, and tip me $5. So thank you. This is actually the record number of tips I've received. So thanks again, Mathis, John, Nathan, Malafe, and Steven. Really appreciate all that. Every little bit adds up, and I reinvest it into getting more Skypes. And so for the reason why Rusev probably was released, apparently he was making $800,000 a year, and he was in a contract dispute with WWE. He wasn't regularly being used on television, and I guess there was a contract dispute. I guess they didn't want to continue paying him $800,000 a year. Who knows where he's going to end up, but I guarantee you New Japan or AEW are not going to pay him $800,000 a year either. So I hope it was worth it. And it's funny because Lana, his wife, is still employed with the guy that she did those skits with, making out with. So those two are still on the road together while the husband's sitting at home. Roman Reigns has revealed that his wife is pregnant with twins. Tokyo Sports in Japan is reporting that the plans for WWE to open up an NXT Japan brand are over with because of, or at least put on hold due to the coronavirus. Rob Gronkowski, who is still the 24/7 champion, has been traded by the New England Patriots to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the idea, I guess, is for the Buccaneers to reunite Gronkowski with Tom Brady for this season, which it's unlikely this season at this point is going to happen in front of fans. We'll find out. In other cuts that happened in the WWE this week, a guy named Kerwin Silfies, who has been the lead director of WWE TV programming since '84, was cut. Sabatino Piscatelli, a.k.a. Tina Sabatelli, and Taynara Coty of NXT were cut. There's a ton of other cuts from NXT. Nick Comoroto, Nick Orgarelli, Caesar Bonanni, Mars Wang, Rocky Yifeng, Marcos Gomez, Edgar Lopez, Fashil Kurdi, and Hussein Al-Dagal, as well as Mohammed Adalbafati. Sorry, these names are so hard to pronounce. Obviously, the Performance Center is shut down, so obviously they're going to cut a lot of developmental people because they can't even train right now. Meltzer says most of the people cut were being trained for NXT and would likely have been in the foreign NXT markets, but expanding into new markets is not really in the current goals of WWE. So it's also said that NXT UK's status might be up in the air. WWE might be downsizing because that brand is losing money, as I just stated. And the world of sports promotion in the UK that is on ITV is shut down. And one of the main reasons WWE started NXT UK was to compete with that and hurt their business. Just like one of the main reasons WWE put the NXT show in competition with AEW was to try and hurt their business. Howard Finkel passed away at 69, as you all know. Apparently, he had a rare genetic brain disease. His brain was shrinking, apparently. As far as Maverick, who was Drake Maverick, I think, he was one of the wrestlers fired last week, but they're still going to use him here and there because all the wrestlers fired are still getting paid for 90 more days. So they can't go anywhere else for 90 more days. And technically, WWE can use them if they want during that time. So if I was WWE, I'd use them all and have them put people over constantly. Allegations came out that NXT star Velveteen Dream was having inappropriate communications with underage fans online. In the AEW versus NXT war, AEW defeated NXT this week 0.25 to NXT's 0.18. WWE Backstage this week did a 0.07. Raw did a 0.56, which was another all-time low rating, averaging only 1,842,000 fans, which was 4% lower than last week's previous record-setting low. SmackDown last week did a 0.6 rating, down 5.6% from the previous week. Total Bellas did a 0.22 rating, so it's interesting. AEW had a 0.25 rating. Total Bellas had a 0.22. So Total Bellas almost matched AEW's rating. So everyone, I posted a video about Buff Bagwell, who was around during the Monday Night Wars when Raw was at times getting like an 8 I think its highest was like an 8.3 rating. Now they're getting like 0.5s. So it's funny that people like make fun of Bagwell for saying the wrestlers today overall are shittier. Overall, a lot of them look like kids. A lot of them don't look like athletes. And the ratings reflect that. In XFL news, the former CEO and commissioner, Oliver Luck, is suing Vince McMahon. Rather than XFL shut down and bankrupted their parent company, Alpha One Entertainment. And this guy is suing Vince McMahon because his contract, believed to be between 20 and 30 million over 5 years, was not fulfilled. And he wants the money in his contract, as Vince said he would fund the company with 500 million, and now he's gone bankrupt. And Oliver Luck, I guess, from what I understand, doesn't believe that McMahon has used all that 500 million and believes that more of that money, he should get more of his salary. I'm sure they're going to settle this one. Jerry McDivitt is representing Vince on this. Thomas Johnson tipped me $5. Appreciate your feedback on my comments and everything you do. I always tune in when you go live and watch all your content. So thank you, Thomas Johnson. This is definitely my record for tips today. Thanks, guys. In pro wrestling Noah news, El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. and Rene Dupree won the Global Tag League tournament and then won the Tag Team Championships for Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan that are called the GHC Tag Team titles. So Renee is doing great. Tag Team Champions in Japan right now. Noah is probably the biggest company still running in Japan. I asked Renee when his next defense is going to be, and he says with the coronavirus going on pretty bad there, they don't know when the next event's going to be yet. But Renee is still in Japan. He's stuck in Japan right now. Apparently, Dr. Wagner has gone back to Mexico, but with the Canadian border closed, Renee is in Japan. But apparently, he's still able to go out there. They haven't closed the gyms in Japan. So at least, unlike if he was back here in Canada, he can still work out at the gym. In AAA news, Conan did an interview this week and said he would be interested in bringing Primo, Epico, and Leo Rush to AAA out of everyone that was cut by WWE. Johnny Boy just tipped me $2.99. Thanks a lot, buddy. Really appreciate that, Johnny Boy. In other news, Dwayne Johnson and HBO have a developmental deal on a 30-minute weekly series about backyard wrestling. It's going to be called Tree Count. Sorry. TRECNT is going to be what the show is called, short for 3 Count. As Chris Monty just tipped me $5, said, "Have a good weekend, pal." Thank you. Thanks a lot, buddy. I'm gonna put all those tips towards another Skype interview soon. For former WWE and Lucha Underground star Matt Striker, who is 45, is going to be on this new Fox network reality show called Labor of Love. And this is interesting. Really interesting. There's a 41-year-old named Christy Katzman who wants to have a kid. So there's going to be 15 people, Matt Striker included, competing to impregnate this woman. So I'm guessing they had to sign some type of contract agreeing that if they win, they can't turn back on that. But that's definitely interesting, competing to impregnate a girl. Good luck to you, Matt Striker. I do have a short interview with Matt Striker on here, and people ask me who were some of the nice people in Deep South. I didn't have much interaction with Matt Striker in Deep South because he was already doing shots for the WWE roster when I was training in Deep South Wrestling, but Matt Striker was one of the nice guys. Joe Pedicino passed away at the age of 70 this week. For anyone that remembers him, he did some announcing for WCW. I guess he had a stroke last year, and he's been pretty incapacitated since then. As Fragrance Fiend says, "Appreciate the content I provide us," and tip me $5. Thank you. Thank you for the record-setting tips today, guys. That's awesome. Dick Steinborn, another guy involved in the old days of wrestling, also died at the age of 86 this week. His reputation was mixed. He had been living in Columbus, Georgia. In UFC and MMA news, as I'll get to the rest of your questions when I'm done this, the Association of Ringside Physicians is stressing that they don't believe any events in boxing or MMA should be taking place right now. They've even gone as far as to cancel their annual meeting that was scheduled for July 23rd to 30th in Sacramento. So even though the Association of Commissioners for MMA and boxing have canceled their annual meeting in July, saying they don't think MMA or boxing can be happening, MMA is going to be happening in Florida starting May 9th. Apparently, the governor, Ron DeSantis of Florida, has actually signed off on all these UFC events happening there. So they're going ahead. As I previously reported, Amanda Nunes has pulled out of her featherweight defense on UFC 249 because she doesn't feel she's been able to train properly due to the coronavirus. Obviously, you're not going to have as much access to training facilities and training partners. So she's not going to fight. Apparently, she also has some nagging injuries. ESPN has reported that the UFC fighters that were scheduled to fight on the March 21st UFC show in London, nobody got paid more than $20,000 for the show being canceled, but the fighters got paid about $20,000 each, supposedly, for the canceled show. Dana White did a teleconference call with fighters on earlier this week and basically said they're going to be going back to work May the 9th. They have also filed a trademark on Fight Island, and Dana White says they're going to be able to start running events on Fight Island starting in June. He says the island is in existence mostly for international fighters who can't get in to the U.S. due to the travel restrictions. Nobody knows how he's going to get these fighters to the Fight Island because most airports and most countries have their borders closed. So I can only assume he's going to get them out on private jets, and then they're going to stay on this island and train on this island full time and fight on this island until all of this ends. That's all I can assume, since most people aren't being allowed in and out of countries right now. I know the Canada to US border is closed for like another minimum 25 or so days. So we're stuck here. By the way, I actually live in the coldest capital in the world right now. It came out in the news today that Ottawa, Canada is the coldest temperatured capital in the world right now. So that sucks for my outdoor runs. In Bellator news, Scott Coker, who runs Bellator, says he's expecting them to get back going by July or August. So if Ken Shamrock still has a problem with me, there you go, Ken. Frank Mir apparently has revealed that he is now a free agent, so he could technically go back to UFC. In other MMA news, Lyman Good, a New York-based UFC fighter, is the first UFC fighter to publicly come out and say that he had the coronavirus. He has since recovered from it, thankfully. No name professional wrestlers or even big, like not even any pro wrestlers on my level have come out and said that they've had the coronavirus. There's one wrestler, lower level guy in Mexico, basically a low level independent wrestler that had it and passed away. But we never got confirmation by any medical team that it was actually from the coronavirus. I am sorry about it, but to my knowledge, they still haven't confirmed it was from that. I'm not saying it isn't possible. I also know that the medical system in Mexico probably is terrible. I can only assume that, especially if you don't have a lot of money. The first promotion that's in MMA that say they're not going to run this year is the PFL, for anyone that cares about the PFL. They're saying they're delaying their next event till 2021. So that is the main news from this week's Wrestling Observer. Huge update. Took me almost half an hour to say it. Thanks again for the tips. I'll go through some of your questions. The 495 Marauder says 28 people filed for unemployment. Yeah, I know. And by the way, here in Canada, a statistic has come out. Only 1 in 1 million people in Canada have the coronavirus. 1 in 1 million have it. That doesn't even mean that they've died from it. Just 1 in 1 million have it, and everyone's losing their jobs. Cancer doctors aren't working. Non-essential surgeries aren't happening. It's really bad. Have I ever met Iron Mike Sharp? He's dead. He's long dead. That's a mess. Asked me that. What did he die of? I don't remember. Chad Thomas, what do I think of Ryback? I had no issues with him until I think I've told you guys this. I have a Twitter at the Hannibal TV and at Devin Hannibal. I checked my filtered messages one day. I've never messaged Ryback on Twitter ever. I had some talk to him a few years ago about doing a shoot interview, but he wanted $4,000 for an hour, which was way too much. And then he sent me this message on Twitter just to tell me he was blocking me, even though I've never even tried to contact him on Twitter, and never tried to contact him since I asked him about that shoot interview. So I thought that was very babyish, and I didn't care for him either way, but that just made me think that he is a weirdo. Desmond Castro, how about the old WTBS Sports Arena in Atlanta? It was cool. I don't know if it's still around. Let's see what else we got. Mr. Antonio 2005, Vince said that sunshine cures COVID. You know what? I never heard him say that. Who knows? Stone Roses 1989 says employment insurance is 55% of your earnings. So I'm not on employment insurance. My regular job is closed till June 30th. So thanks again, everyone that tipped me earlier in this feed. I really appreciate it. The government here in Canada is giving us some money for the unemployment, but it's not as much as most people normally make. Central Extreme Backyard Wrestling, how are you doing, buddy? You gonna get back out there, buddy? I believe in you. Live your dream as a WWE superstar. My dream was to be a superstar of the WWE that I saw when I was young, the 80s era, then the Attitude Era. The current era, being a WWE superstar, is not my dream anymore. My dream now is to get a full-time job as an MMA commentator or interviewer. I think I'm way better than this Ariel Helwani guy, and I'm just starting out as an MMA interviewer. And then I'd like to have my own channel still to do my own interests for my own interviews, but I'd rather be an MMA interviewer than a WWE wrestler because I'm not a fan of the WWE product. And also, it's too restrictive. They would make me shut down this channel. Brian Chill says normal people don't have access to the coronavirus tests. I don't know. There hasn't been many tests. Like, I've never been offered to take a test. Family doctors are all shut down here in Canada. They're only rarely doing phone consultations. So mine hasn't even got back to me. I left mine a message about my skin cancer issue like 2 weeks ago now, and my family doctor hasn't even got back to me because I told her my specialist said he doesn't see anytime soon that he's going to be able to help me. So I contacted her. She said, could you find me another specialist? And I haven't even heard back. So family doctors aren't even working right now. Brian Chill says Joe Rogan is under fire for flaunting his celebrity status to get tested easily. Well, the doctor that he has in his house, I think he does his podcast in his house. He's paying that doctor. So he's a multimillionaire, and I'm sure I know his show is well funded, has lots of sponsors. So, I mean, I'm sure he's paying for his own doctor. That doctor is not doing that for free. John Easton, am I watching the NFL draft? I'll be honest, I'm not that much of a football fan. Not a huge football fan. Tony Branco says, I deserve more tips. You provide with a lot of good content. Thank you, but I appreciate the viewers that watch. I appreciate people that help at patreon.com/the Hannibal TV. But if you can't help me at all, if you watch, that's all I appreciate. No matter if it's the news updates, the shoot interview clips, the match clips, whatever. Stone Roses 1989 says towards Rusev, he got paid $800,000 to be cucked on TV. Basically, I agree with you on that. Brian Chill says only Val Venus thinks the coronavirus isn't serious. I don't doubt that it's serious, but 98% of people are recovering. So for people to lose their jobs, go broke, lose their businesses, not get cancer treatments, and mine is minor. I've had someone that says they had a brain fluid leaking into their brain, and they can't see their brain doctor specialist. I've talked to people that have lung cancer and can't get chemotherapy because of the coronavirus. So yeah, it's an overreaction. Definitely. 1 in 1 million people have it in Canada. Matt Lewis says, your show makes these hard days better. Keep up the good work. Thanks, buddy. And really, this is the only outside communication I'm having with people is through my Skype interviews and this. So I appreciate all you guys that talk to me. Martin Duggan says, RIP to those that have lost their lives to the virus, and all the best to those that are keep fighting. And I agree with that. Thomas Johnson says Gronk was retired. Yes, but apparently I guess New England still had him under contract, so they traded him. Stone Rose is 1989, says people die in those numbers every year from the flu. I'm tired of this hysteria. People die in those numbers every year from starvation too. Reopen the goddamn economy, someone says. More Attitude Era shoots, Christian Patriot 88 says. Yeah, and as I said, if any of you guys know people that do Skypes, let me know. I'm going to interview them. Attitude Era was the best time, Martin Duggan says. Uncle Rory says Tom Brady agreed to a match at WrestleMania against Triple H. I never heard about that, if it's true or not. Brian Chill says RIP Velveteen Queen. Who knows? Who knows? Hopefully they won't do a deal with him like they did to Enzo, who they just fire, and then the girls ended up having no credibility. Although I'm not an Enzo fan. Thomas Johnson just tipped me $5 and said, appreciate your feedback on my comments. Oh, sorry, I'm going back through the old one, so I saw that again. So Thomas Johnson, you're getting a shout out again. Can I do an interview with Renee Young? MS says she works for WWE, so no. Let me see a few more of your questions. There's so many, I'm not going to be able to get through them all because I've already almost 40 minutes in. Creative Control says, love your content. Thank you for giving us some reality in these hard times. The 495 Marauder just tipped me $4.99. Thank you, 495 Marauder. Val interview was great. You're the man. Shout out to Butch Cassidy from the legendary Smoky Mountain. Thank you, 495 Marauder. The Patriot Del Welks is on Twitter. That Bomb One says, I do have an interview with Del Welks on here. Just search up Del Welks, the Hannibal TV. Haha, Gio tipped me $1.99 and says Owen Hart in the WWE Hall of Fame one day. It's possible. Harry Smith, D.H. Smith, told me personally that he doesn't think WWE's even talked to Martha about it anytime recently. And Martha let Owen a few years ago be inducted into the Dan Gable Hall of Fame, which is a video I have on here on the Hannibal TV if you search up Owen Hart, Dan Gable Hall of Fame. So Harry says he thinks it could happen. Would I interview Nails? Chayon Hernandez says yes. Uncle Rory tipped me $4.99. Says Abdullah the Butcher's Fork wanted to say hi, take the tip, and have an interview with Zack Ryder's balls. I'll take the tip, sure. Big Beef 35, Dark Side of the Ring producers would be a good interview. I already interviewed them. Search up Hannibal interviews Dark Side of the Rings. Producer, the 495 Marauder says my Dan Gable interview was awesome. Thank you. It's one of my favorites. Richard M. didn't know I tried out for the CFL. They actually gave me tryouts 2 years in a row for the Ottawa Red Blacks, but the issue was my times were good and stuff, but they wanted me to play a year of like the league under the CFL because I had zero football experience. My high school only had rugby and amateur wrestling. But the thing is, I don't want to play a year of football for free. I only wanted to go in the CFL if I was going to get a contract. So I had a lot of fun on the tryouts, especially the one at Princeton. The Princeton one was really fun because the one I did in Canada, I didn't get that physical, but the Princeton one, we didn't have pads, but it got really physical. So it was a lot of fun, and I felt that I kept up with the college players that were there. So, yeah. So Chris Candido for Dark Side of the Ring would be good. Someone with a really long name says. That would be funny. But more funny would be the Tammy Sitch one. So thank you. We've gone over 40 minutes. I really appreciate the record-setting tips. I'm going to post my first clip with Terry Reynolds.